Hi, Sean here. I am going to try and make a tutorial about how I use MechJeb in order to help control my boats a little bit. So when I do this, I usually make myself some sort of customized window. In this case, I have something like this, where the really important things I have found are that I need to limit Q, limit acceleration, have a nice smooth throttle. And there are some other aspects here that I keep because there are times when I want to get the coordinates, which I could get by going to the map view, but this is just as easy. And some of these other values allow me to help as I'm slowly refining the boat designs. But let's go through the steps necessary in order to make one of these custom windows, and I'll show you why this is important. So we'll close that. We'll go to make a custom window. What we do here is click on New Window. We can name it whatever we want, so this we'll just call it our spiffy new window. And now we need to add some of the things. And the different things can be found in these different categories. And I will show you some of my favorites. So the important things I find are under thrust. We want to go to limit acceleration. And when we click on it, it adds it here. We'll limit throttle and we'll limit Q. Those are sort of the important things. Oh no, we don't want to limit throttle. We want to limit acceleration, limit max Q, and then we'll go down to use smooth throttle. That's what I was looking for. So now we'll close this, and here's our basic window. And I'll show why this matters, because we'll just sort of turn these things off, and we'll fire up this particular boat. I call it the Scoodly Pooper. So away we go. This is just going to be sort of a test run to illustrate why I think we need these things, or why I need these things when I'm doing it. So we'll slowly get up to speed. Close this so we can see Jeb and Bill. Now, what I tend to design are these boats where they will rise up out of the water on the foils, and the faster they go, the more lift they get. So this can start to be a problem, either in that the speed will start to get so high that the lift will increase to the point that the entire craft will want to lift up out of the water, or you run into a situation where things will be fine as the craft starts out because it has a large amount of fuel. As it consumes more and more fuel, it will start to have less and less mass holding it down, and the lift will overcome this, and your boat will suddenly become a plane, which is not what you want. Now, we need to get this thing up and out of the water, so I'm going to try and sort of just pop these things up a little bit to try and get it up. Okay, now we are up and out of the water. I can dial this back a little bit. It is on the bottommost fins. Speed is increasing because you have less materials that are actually in the water. And pretty soon what we should start to see is the boat starts to behave poorly. There will be, you might run into a situation where you have porpoising, where the boat will sort of oscillate frontwards and backwards, back and forth, and it will increase in instability as you increase in speed. Or you might just see what's called chine walking, which will go back and forth on this particular craft. So let's see what's going to happen with this particular boat. Okay, we're starting to see a bit of a shimmy in the craft. You'll see it sort of vibrating back and forth like this. This is chine walking. The faster we go, the more unstable this craft is going to become over time, until eventually there's going to be some catastrophic crash, and that's not going to end well for anybody. SAS is attempting to adjust for this, and it's just not going to be able to keep up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill my acceleration, and we're actually going to add some other things to our window here. We're going to go back to the custom window editor, and we're going to add some information about what we're seeing in terms of our acceleration and thrust. So instead of being here, let me look at my notes, we need to go to vessel, and we want to look at what the current acceleration is. We also want to look at, no, just current acceleration. That will be enough in this situation. If we want to, we can drag these around. Well, drag, I say drag, but what I mean is move it up. So now we have the current acceleration right next to what our limiting acceleration would be. So we can close that window again, and I'll get us back up to speed, and then I'll be back after the cut as we start to see some of this chine walking. Okay, we're starting to see the chine walking yet again around 50 meters per second. But if we limit what our acceleration is, we will see that there's a drop in speed. And this value that I've set, this value of 8.4 meters per second, that's a value that I have just found through trial and error that keeps this craft stable. It's sort of the upper end of where it is stable, and it maximizes the speed with stability in terms of this craft. Something that will also happen over time is that you're going to be losing mass as your ship goes along. And one way that you can help control this is by turning on smooth throttle and by limiting Q. The combination of these two, of limiting Q and limiting the acceleration, will allow your ship to stay stable at many, many speeds, but you have to get this sort of dialed in correctly. So you have to get it up and going. Let's take this up to 8.4. Turn on the limit. Our speed will slowly increase like we've seen before. As more and more of the vessel gets up out of the water, our speed will increase faster. In general, vessels like this, boats in general with jets, will tend to nose down. So what I find is that I need to have planes on the front in order to keep the nose up. And we're going about fast enough. I think I can pop the front end up. Now we've got a pretty level craft. I'm just going to leave it there. And what we've achieved right here is we'll see that there's a balance that will be found between what our pressure is, our max Q, and what our acceleration is. And the MechJeb will allow us to automatically vacillate between the two, and it will optimize our speed in terms of how much pressure is on the craft, and it will keep things nice and stable. You might have to adjust things over time when you're traveling long distance, but in general, this technique I have found allows you to have very, very stable watercraft, particularly hydrofoils, when you're going long distance.